My name is Jonathan Chandler. I'm a volunteer at the Virginia School of Traditional Arts. We're getting ready to glue our knife handle on. We're going to use 5-minute epoxy. It comes in 2 parts. I'm sure most of y'all are familiar with this. You got to squirt out equal parts. You'd rather squirt out a little bit too much than have to mix it again in the middle. So we're going to make sure we get enough. In the same vein as you don't have to coat this thing like everywhere. This stuff's hard to get off. So when you get this out, also get out your fingernail polish remover or the equivalent. This is actually not the fingernail polish remover. This is just the bottle I keep it in. Acetone is what this is. I keep it in a little bottle to make it easier to operate. I partially shape my knife handles so that they're oriented for me. So if they're all a block, rectangle blocks, you might put the glue on the wrong side, the epoxy on the wrong side, or flip the scale over, or so forth and so on. So if you partially shape them like I have done, what the front's sort of done, and I've got part of the finger notch on these, so it's giving me some clues to which way it goes. We would prefer the epoxy not to get on the wood no more than we have to. Of course, we want it on the inside, but on the outside, we'd prefer it not to be there. It will affect your finish, quality of your finish. You want your stuff clean and dry. No grit on it, no burrs on your knife. On the holes or on any parts of it, and so we want it to be clean and dry. Alright, so we're going to get to it. What I use to mix with is just a barbecue skewer, like you'd make for your barbecue. Put your meat and your potatoes and vegetables on it, and I cut them in half. And then I make a little flat end on them. They're cheap. There's like $2 for 100 or something. And you want a small thing to mix with, and you want a small applicator so you're not making a huge mess with this. Going for about a quarter-sized glob here, and we want to make the portions similar sized. And I didn't pour them on top of each other. I poured them beside each other. That gives me time if I gotta think of something different I gotta go get. We want our pin material handy. We want our clamps handy. I got a whole stack of clamps. Got some paper towels. So we've got time. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna mix it up. And we wanna mix this well, and you need to be in a good ventilated area. We're out in our shop. It has a 14-foot ceiling, and by no means is it airtight. So, good ventilated area. And take your time and mix this up. This is 5-minute epoxy. It dries, so they say, in 5 minutes. I don't know about that. It starts getting dry in 5 minutes. But we want to take our time here and mix this for a good 30 seconds. So what I do is I just make a layer. Doesn't have to be a super thick layer. These things fit tight together. And I'm careful to keep it off of that front edge just a little teeny bit. Try not to run it over that front edge. The other edges, there's much easier to get rid of it. But the front edge cause issues. And we'll poke it down in some of the holes a little bit. I'll show you what I'm doing. Poke it down in those holes a little bit. And we want to smooth the most of this off so we don't squirt out a bunch. When we go to the applying it part. So that's what our first one is. At this point we'll put a pin or two through it. And you can a little bit on your pen if you choose to. But with us putting it down on the inside of the inside of the holes, the pins are getting glued too. So we're starting to apply this thing. We're just going to start with 2 pins for the moment. We'll put a little glue on that one as well. Set that aside for a minute. You gotta work fairly quickly with this stuff. So we want our pins to push through. And then this pen we'll give her a pretty liberal coating on this one. That way it'll pass all the way through, we hope. There we go. And now what we're looking to do is clamp this dude up good. Some little small clamps. And now what you're looking for is that it be tight to the wood. Sometimes the pins hold it off a little bit or what have you. So I generally hold it up and look at the light out my windows to check and make sure that we got it tight. And now we're gonna clean up around this front edge especially. That's the main thing I want to clean up. With our acetone. And unlike the students I used to teach at the middle school, they just figured rubbing it was good enough. You need to fold this towel. Every time you rub it, you need to fold and have a clean place. Otherwise, you're not doing anything but smearing it all over. That was and I'm just wiping off the rest of it just to make it a little easier to when we go to sand. That stuff is relatively hard. And it's good to set your clamps prior to starting your glue job, whatever you're gluing. And I set the first 2. I'm trying to look down in there to see if I got any more glue coming out, because we don't want that on that blade if we can help it. And that's where this pointy end of this little doohickey comes in here. Get that in here good. Alright, now we got her good and clamped up. Put our glue back up. If you have this type of epoxy, it's not great for it to freeze, so I keep this in the house, not out here in the barn. Most glue is like that, so be mindful of that. And I will put it like that so it's, if there's any glue running, I want it to run down in there and not up on my handle. Alright, and even though this says 5-minute epoxy, I generally give it 24 hours to cure. I would recommend that. If you start grinding on this and sanding on this, and heating this metal up, it's going to make the glue fail. Alright, we're back. We got our knife working here. We've got the handle scales glued on. Our pins are still long. We're just going to take a pair of pliers. Since these pins are small, we'll just take a pair of pliers and cut those off. And we cut them off as close as we can get them. And we're going to use our sander here. We've got this is the same belt we were using on the blade for part of it. It's still pretty new on this side. This side is more worn out. And so we're going to sand down the pins first, and then we'll sand down the profile, and then we'll sand down the thickness. Alright, that's our handle up to this point. We're going to thin it down a little bit more. We'll bring you back when that happens. Well, we've got the profile down pretty good all the way around. We'll have to do a little bit of hand work over here, right here where it joins, but that's always the case. And we'll bring you back when that happens. Alright, we've got our knife handle started here. We've done the belt sanding as much as we need to. Shrunk it down a little less than half as much as we had. The knife that we are replicating was an old knife, and it had very thin scales, probably even thinner than these. So we're going to start with 60 grit. We're going to run through 100, 150, 220, 400, 600, and work on the handle. We're going to round the edges here slightly, make it feel good in the hand. It feels pretty good right now, just where we belt sanded, of course, is sharp edges still. We'll stick our safety gear on and get to work. run the 600 grit. I got a few scratches still in this. I'll probably play with it a little more. But we've got most of the big stuff out. We've got it down to where just a couple strokes on a stone will sharpen it very nicely. Got a little bit of a convex edge on it. This is a butcher knife. This is meant to, you know, butcher animals. That's basically what it's for. The handle feels really good. It's got nice curves to it. Rounded over the edge is good. Our little finger well here, small finger well, is feeling really good. That's why I like these sanders. I can get right up to the edge of something without damaging the other parts. The sanders, this type of sander is a little slower than, say, a belt with the same grit on it, but it gives you a flat surface, and it allows you not to go too fast. Now we're going to apply some finish. We've got our knife handle sanded up to 600 grit, and our blade sanded up to 600 grit. And this is homemade food safe finish. It is walnut oil and beeswax mix, about 50-50. And I heat it up in the microwave so it's liquid. And then all you do is get you a paper towel. And rub it on it. Especially on the end grained. Just kind of wipe off the excess. And that's kind of what I got. And this finish is fine for putting it on the metal. It'll keep it from rusting and that kind of thing. But I may do a patina on this knife to make it look old, like the original. So I'm not going to put it on there on purpose anyway. But there's our knife just about done. It's reasonably sharp now. I might take another pass or two sharpening it. But other than that, it's done.